Hello, cyberspace. It's me, Angie, and I welcome both you and your ears to an episode of Life, Love, Music, and Space Travel. In case you're wondering who Angie is, I'm Angie, and I'm super stoked to spend some time sharing with y'all some of my experiences and thoughts on living, loving, music, and space travel, or spiritual experiences as I often refer to as space travel. A rather broad spectrum, right? Well, my hope is to always share something that resonates with, intrigues, excites, or perhaps inspires you. On that note, I invite you to sit back, buckle up, and take a little trip out into the cosmos with me. Hello. It's me, Angie, and I'm here with part 2 of my Big Easy adventure. I'm officially back from my spectacular journey to New Orleans. Man, oh man, it was a trip. I've actually been back for, about 6 days. I got back on May 3rd. Today is May 11th, and I'm just now about to unpack my mental memories. It really was a spectacular journey. For those of you who have not been listening, my last episode was based around my first couple of days in New Orleans. I'd never been before. It was sort of a bucket lister. I had been planning on going to Jazz Fest when it was supposed to be in October. Things changed, delayed. Somebody was going to go with me. They decided not to go. So in the end, I went to New Orleans by myself, solo. It was more than I could have hoped for, really. It was definitely a spiritual experience, and I personally, I feel like everyone I've talked to who's been to New Orleans, who is a music lover, really had nothing but great things to say about the city, and everything really played out that way for me. It was kind of a wild ride to a certain extent, filled with opportunities to cope and just roll with it. The first few days were fantastic. The second few days were fantastic. So in this episode, I'm going to start with Sunday. Sunday was day 3 of Jazz Fest. I was staying at the Jung Hotel. I am going to throw out and talk about all the places that I went to, that I visited, all the sites that I took in. For anyone who has never been to New Orleans or is maybe thinking about going to New Orleans, I'm going to include my perspective on these places. I did stay at the Jung Hotel on Canal Street, and for me, at least this beginning time, it was a perfect location. It was, I'm going to say, 5 blocks from Bourbon Street. Although I didn't attend any performances, it was just a couple blocks from the Joy Theater and the Saenger Theater. And I'm pretty disappointed that I didn't go to either of them. But in truth, I didn't go out at night. I didn't really know what to expect, and I had definitely been given some warning about going out at night. So on my next journey, I'll definitely make it out a little bit more because there were some night things that I really wanted to do. All music involved. I didn't get to Preservation Hall. I didn't get to any of the nighttime music venues. So I'll do that at a later date. But anyway, Sunday morning, last day of Jazz Fest, got up. The prior days it had been sunny, beautiful, and hot. And that's okay. I really kind of enjoyed the humidity personally. But Sunday morning, I got up and I kept looking outside and thought, oh my gosh, it's pretty overcast. I wonder if it's going to rain today. I had been told about the possibility of rain and the necessity for rain boots at the venue, which is at a racetrack. So I had heard it could get muddy, and I definitely did not have rain boots. I had Birkenstocks. I flew low budget. So I had one bag, brought one pair of shoes. When I looked outside at one point, it was pouring. I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not going to go to the last day. Will they have it? Of course they're going to have it. I'm pretty sure it's rain or shine. But I didn't know if I was going to be really able to take on a whole day of rain. By the time I decided I was going to go, it was about maybe 11 o'clock or something like that, and it stopped raining. So I opted, of course, to venture out. I walked over to Bourbon Street headed down and eventually began my way to the venue. The venue is about 2 or 3 blocks. For anyone who hasn't been, I mean, I just thought it was wonderful. During the day, it's a city. It comes with all the city stuff. It's kind of stinky. Certain areas are stinkier than others, but I feel like that's inevitable in a city. So I didn't really mind it so much. But I did go into, I don't know, I walked through downtown through the French Quarter area. I feel like I was looking for breakfast. I kind of think I did not find it. Ended up getting a cab and just going straight to the venue. Got in line. It was the last day. I was pretty excited about seeing the Chili Peppers, who are the headliners. So on Sunday, I decided to go pretty much straight to the festival stage. I did walk in. I hit the gospel tent for a little while. And I think I went over and sat in the jazz tent for a little while. I did mention in my last episode that the Jazz Fest experience was, in truth, it was overwhelming for me. There was so much music happening all at the same time. It was kind of hard to see everything. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to listen to. I mean, there is an incredible amount of music taking place all at once. So I opted for trying to get the best seat possible for the Chili Peppers, considering I didn't have a Grand Marshal ticket or anything like that. So I went straight over to the festival stage. And actually, I got a spot right against the rail, which was wonderful. And that's where I stayed for, 5 or 6 hours. I didn't get there right at the beginning, so I did miss the opening band, which was a brass band. And my goodness, I have fallen in love not only with the city of New Orleans, but obviously their music and New Orleans jazz. Street jazz brass band are spectacular, so I'm kind of bummed that I didn't miss that. But I did get to see Cowboy Mouth, not jazz, but everybody was from, for the most part, not everybody, but a good portion of the bands were from New Orleans. Cowboy Mouth, for anyone who has not seen them, I was not familiar with them. Was familiar with the name, but didn't know anything about them. They rocked the house. And the kid that was sitting next to me, Weo, I believe, if I'm getting his name correctly, was a great dance partner for the whole concert. I'm so grateful that I was next to somebody who was super into the music just as I was. And he was super familiar with Cowboy Mouth and kept telling me, it's going to be a great performance. And it was 4-piece band. The drummer was on fire. They had a great message. It was a spectacular way to start the day. After Cowboy Mouth came Anders Osborne, who is, a great blues. I feel like maybe more in the blues genre. Did a fantastic job as well. And then after came on Ivan Neville's Dumpsta Funk, which they were great. Keyboard, a guitarist, brass section, I believe, like a trumpet, a saxophone, and something else. Anyway, and a great drummer. Great New Orleans, I don't know what they call it, the type of funk that you would find in a dumpster. But they were spectacular. And then the day finished up with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I mean, I have to say, first of all, I think I mentioned it before too, that I was thoroughly impressed with the whole presentation. I mean, they know what they're doing at the Jazz and Heritage Festival. Things come on time, bands finish, things change, new setup is made, and the next band comes in. And the Chili Peppers did not disappoint. I remember them when I was in high school, right around 16, and I'm 50 now, so they've grown right along with me, and they were, everybody did exactly what one hoped for. They didn't finish with just wearing socks. Anyone who knows the Chili Peppers knows that whole deal, but they were really spectacular. It was a great way to spend the day. The EMS team was walking around spraying people down with lavender water, which was pretty lovely. I really can't talk more highly about the whole experience at Jazz Fest. I definitely suggest getting your tickets ahead of time. I did order mine ahead of time. I got 3 days for $200. That's a great deal because if you get them the day of, they're $90 a piece. So definitely saving yourself some money by getting it ahead of time. But I'm really looking forward to going back to the event for sure. What I was unaware of, as I have mentioned, is I was unfamiliar with the nighttime scene. And so I did come to find that the night before, Saturday night actually, the Who closed out the event. And my understanding is that that night at Preservation Hall, maybe it's in the warehouse district. Again, I need to figure out the location of things. They have a midnight showing, and there's always a surprise guest. And Pete Townsend played at Preservation Hall, and you can get your tickets ahead of time for $35. I think they only allow 100 people in. Or you can wait in line and pay, I don't know what it is, $20 or $25. That's unheard of prices for great music. So I definitely look forward to going back and getting in some of the inside scene stuff. But I'm happy. I'm really happy with Jazz Fest. I bought a hat. I found personally I didn't need the rain boots, but a good portion of the attendees had on their boots. So there were a lot of people who were returning attendees, and it was really cool to see that people knew what was up. You're allowed to bring in sealed water. I mean, you can buy stuff. There's plenty of stuff to buy when you get in there. There's plenty of food that you can get. But you're allowed to bring in your chairs. You can rent a chair. I found out that somebody said you can buy a lawn chair there and then take it back and they'll ship it for you, which was also great. All the little tricks and tips that for somebody like myself who has never been before, I'm excited to learn about how the process works to make my next experience just as pleasant as this one, if not more. I love my hat. I ended up buying a beautiful handmade hat from a woman out of Frisco, Colorado, of all places. Anyone who doesn't know, I have spent the last 27 years in Eagle County, Colorado. So Frisco being in Summit County, very close. And it was really cool, of all places, to be in New Orleans and bump into somebody from my part of the world. That being said, the day completed. I went back, did what I had done for the last 3 days, stood in line for the taxi, watched all the festivities that took place at the end of the night while waiting for the taxi, and headed back to my hotel room at the Jung Hotel. I was scheduled to leave the next morning around, I think my flight was scheduled to leave at 10:20. So I went home pretty early, had decided I was going to pack up and be ready to leave. Next morning, I don't know, I woke up around 5:30 or something, checked my phone to find that my flight had been canceled. Yeah. Flying on Frontier, the front end of my trip, Spirit had actually canceled my flight the night before the journey was supposed to take place. The first leg messed with everything. I had to get a new ticket. So Spirit and Frontier are about to merge. I don't know what to think about that. Yeah, Frontier canceled my flight. And rather than get all tweaked out and upset about it, I kind of looked at it as a gift of sorts, the only way to look at the experience. And I decided I had to stay. The only options that they gave me were a flight the next day. I was presented with this opportunity to spend another day in New Orleans, and I grabbed a hold of it. I checked out of the Jung Hotel and tried the High Hostel just down the street from me, maybe it was like a block down the street. I had passed it a few times. I had personally never stayed at a hostel, but I could see it from the outside every day that I had walked by it, and it looked beautiful. So at about 6:30 in the morning, I called the High Hostel to see if they had any availability, and they did. They had one room, at least at the time that I called, left, which was a private room. They did offer a couple different options. I think they had like dorm room style, 4 bedrooms, or 4 beds, 8 beds, bunk bed stuff. And I'm not opposed to that, but I had to get up early on Tuesday morning to fly out. So I booked the queen bed private room, $170, which was quite a difference from the price of the room that I had been staying at the Jung. And when I got to the hostel and checked in, eventually I checked in later, pleasantly surprised. Definitely would have stayed there the whole time had I known about the situation. I didn't know about it before. So I got there at about 10 a.m., and I couldn't check in until 3 o'clock. So they had a whole locker space where you could leave your stuff. And I put my stuff in the locker and headed out into the city. Like I said, to a certain extent, it was a gift. I decided to do all the things that I kind of wanted to do and didn't think I was going to get a chance to do. First on my list was visiting St. Louis Cemetery number 1. I had heard all of the stuff about the cemeteries in, I don't know if it's all of Louisiana, but definitely the cemeteries in New Orleans. And I got the address and the location from the front desk at the hostel, put it into my Google Maps, and hit the pavement. I will admit, I wandered around. I didn't know where it was. It was literally only 2 blocks away, I think. And I couldn't see it until somebody pointed it out. And I asked somebody, I said, do you know where the cemetery is? And they were like, I'm not really sure. And I said, I think, my GPS is telling me it's around here somewhere. Then they pointed across the street to this white walled area. Oh, lo and behold. And they said, I just didn't want to send you to the wrong place. So I went down to the cemetery, and there was somebody at the front gate, and they said you had to do a tour. I think that there are some open cemeteries that you can go to, but this one is definitely tour. So I ended up going to, Cemetery Tour New Orleans. And I'm going to pull it up on my phone here and give out the correct information because I highly suggest Cemetery Tour New Orleans at Basin Street Station. I got in there. They do tours every 45 minutes or every half hour or something like that. So I signed up for one. And then I took a trip to the restroom. I asked if I had time. They said yes. I came out. I didn't see anybody. So I started to walk around. And about 15 minutes later, somebody came up and said, hey, I think you're supposed to be on our tour. We're looking for you. Of course, I felt like a schmo. But I ended up walking down with this fantastic gentleman, Carlo. He's been working there, I think, for 9 years, or giving tours for 9 years. And no shit, I got a private tour. It was spectacular. So although I definitely did not mean to be late or hold anybody up, I definitely enjoyed my private tour. It was amazing. He knew so much about the history of that cemetery and an incredible amount of history about New Orleans. I really had no idea in this specific cemetery is, I think, their most popular person who's been buried there is the, supposed voodoo queen, Marie Laveau. And it was just neat to see old history. It's definitely old wrought iron. I found it personally to be beautiful, just sitting right in the middle of the city here. It was lovely. It was moving. You weren't allowed to touch anything because he said things could definitely fall down, but there was a lot of history. One of the, I guess I'll call it a crypt. I'm not sure if it's a crypt or a tomb, but one of them had, during the movie Easy Rider, I guess when they were filming it, they snuck in and took some photos and included it in the movie illegally. Since then, some of the pieces have broken off. But anyway, there's all kinds of history that was connected to it. Well worth. It was about a 45-minute to an hour tour. Definitely well worth going, and I highly suggest asking for Carlo. He was great. He knew what he was talking about and made the trip very enjoyable. And he actually suggested to me a few things, totally not necessarily connected to the cemetery, but he did tell me if anyone gets a chance to see the Queen Nefari rolling exhibit, definitely go see it. Nicolas Cage has a pyramid tomb that's in that St. Louis Cemetery number 1, and there was a lot of folklore and history around that whole thing, which was very interesting. But he did also tell me that he saw his new movie and said it was really funny. So there's a little plug for that as well. But he did then send me or suggest that I check out the New Orleans Voodoo Museum. So after the tour, I decided to head over into the French Quarter, continue my extra day adventure. I bumped into a few women who were cruising around from, I don't know where they were from actually. They were from all over the place, but they highly suggested taking in some walking tours and said that you can find free walking tours. Go online and find that. I mean, there's so much information that I didn't know about that I can do next time. They also suggested checking out Quebec City, which might be another trip that I end up taking, but sticking to New Orleans. I cruised through town. I stopped on Bourbon Street. It was noon or so on a Monday, and there was some spectacular music coming out of one of the bars. I have no idea what the bar was, but I did find out that the name of the band, they're called The Daywalkers. D-A-Y, The Daywalkers. They were great. What's better than live music on a Monday afternoon? You know, I stood out on the sidewalk. I danced a little jig. It was wonderful. I mean, I am just a music lover. I mean, everything. I was soaking it all up. The old architecture, the smell of the food. I could smell the food. The people were outside walking around. You could walk everywhere. I didn't have to be in a car. Music coming out of plenty of places. It was great. From there, I continued through the French Quarter, eventually made my way over to, I'm not sure of what the street is, but it's right along the Mississippi River. And I decided to go to the aquarium. Yeah, I think it's called like the National Audubon Aquarium. And that was a nice way to spend a hour and a half or so. They had a lot of different stuff in there. Some birds. I saw an owl and a red-tailed hawk and a toucan. I got to pet a stingray. It was nice. You know, like I said, I was really just taking everything in and walking everywhere and doing what I could do. So from there, I do want to go back to, I'm kind of all over the place as I try and recollect. I did go to the Voodoo Museum, which was probably one of the most interesting museums I've ever been to. The price was great. I think it was $10. And it was filled with all kinds of stuff. Quite a bit of artwork, quite a bit of artistic creations. They had a lot of different written information posted around, you know, that talked about where voodoo came from, how it started. And, you know, I didn't know a lot about that stuff. Thinking we all think, I don't want to say we all think, it's so often talked about as this dark, evil deal. And I believe, I found out on the voodoo doll that there's you can bless people with the voodoo doll. Use the white pin. And you can also not to bless them with the black pin. But it was definitely interesting, the history around where people came from. And it was just a type of, instead of using, let's say, modern quote, which can be very unmodern, Western medicine, they prayed a lot, and there was quite a connection to Catholicism. All of it was, I learned so much. I did not expect to go to New Orleans and learn so much about the history of the area. I really thought I was just going for a musical experience, and I got so much more. And after the aquarium, it had been suggested to me to check out a place called Jacquemo's. I've been calling it a lot of things. I think I've been calling it Jacques Imo's for a long time, but I'm pretty sure it's Jacquemo's. The song Iko Iko Aye, Jacquemo. I don't know the rest of the song, but I finally figured out. I'm pretty sure that's how I say it. And it was located on Oak Street, maybe, somewhere way down in the Garden District. So I decided that I was going to try and get on the streetcar and make my way to Jacquemo's. My friend Amy had suggested it to me. She said the food was so good, I'm going to slap my mama. So I was hungry, hadn't eaten anything all day, and figured I would check it out. I had not taken a streetcar ride yet. So I eventually found my way to the St. Charles. I found my way to the St. Charles streetcar, which I think is the oldest streetcar line, maybe in the world. I'll have to double check on that. I've posted some pictures on my Facebook page, and which included more about the history of the streetcar in particular, but I can't remember it. So I tried to get on at one point, and found that I didn't have the proper change. It's like $1.50 exact change. And when I got off, I walked past this woman and she was like, "Oh, you changed your mind?" I said, "Well, I don't have the money because I didn't have any cash. I didn't have the right change." And she informed me that I could get online and open up the RTA app and pay for it like that. And I did. How wonderful. I mean, she helped me. It changed my whole day. Eventually, when it came through, I hopped on and I took the streetcar. It was about 40 blocks, 40. Giacomo's was about 3 blocks down. I'm pretty sure it was Oak Street. And what an experience that was. I love food. I'm definitely a foodie, for sure. And this place was in an older part of town. I feel like everything is really an older part of town, but I think it's near the college, that area of town. It was in a house, and when I went inside, I put myself on the wait list and decided I didn't want to wait too long. I was just going to sit at the bar. But I noticed that some people who wanted to sit in the dining area actually had to go out the front door into the house next door. It was crazy cool. I mean, I've worked in restaurants my whole life. Have never seen or experienced anything like that. I did eventually sit at the bar, and I've mentioned, many times in my previous episodes, I am a gal in recovery, so the bar is not always the safest place for me. But when the very kind bartender offered me the drink specials, I said, "Oh, nope, I don't drink anymore. For your safety and my safety, it is a public service." And from that point on, I really had a spectacular experience. The people sitting next to me, I had a conversation with them. I think at one point I might have even cried and teared up, and we were talking about life and music and change. And it was great. It was really wonderful. And at the suggestion of the bartender, who I believe had worked there for a while, my meal ended up being, I opted to go for his favorites. So I had the alligator sausage and shrimp, quote, cheesecake, which is really like a quiche. I'm not sure what it was topped off with, some sort of, I don't know that it was a hollandaise, but was literally one of the most delicious things I've ever eaten in my life. It was so moist. You would never have known necessarily that it was alligator. It was delicious. A couple people next to me ended up having it. I think the people on the other side of me ended up having it. It was delicious. And then I had redfish, blackened redfish, I think, with some red beans and rice and Cajun skillet corn. I really wish I had gotten the sweet potatoes that they had, but I just love sweet potatoes. Anyway, my meal was delicious. I was so happy with the whole experience. And right next door to Giacomo's was a place called the Maple Leaf. And had I had more time, George Porter was playing at 10 o'clock. George Porter for $20. It was unbelievable. To me, I don't know if it's just because there are so many opportunities for music around there, but I can't go anywhere for $20 and see an amazing musician such as. So after dinner, I walked down the block, suggested Giacomo's to some people who were waiting to go a little bit further down and were looking for a place to eat. And I hopped on the streetcar and rode it 40 blocks up to my hotel, back to the hostel. And that was the first time I actually got to see the room. The front desk people were great. I really cannot, I don't know what it'll be like on a different experience, but the staff at the high hostel, everything was very professional. You walked in, it was a really beautiful open room. There was a pool table, a big spacious, area to sit and read, lots of chairs, a kind of a cafe area where you could store your food and eat. And then you headed past a locked door. They were pretty strict about nobody could come in other than yourself. If you weren't staying there, you weren't coming in. So I felt really safe. It was a great environment. And when I went into my room, it was spectacular. It was super clean, huge bed, everything I needed, considering I was really just sleeping there. I went to bed and waited for my cab. I will also say that was another wonderful experience. I met one of the cab drivers that dropped me off from Jazz Fest at my hotel. He gave me his card. I said, text me the night before you think you're going to need a ride. So he couldn't bring me, but he got somebody else to pick me up, another driver to pick me up, came and picked myself up and somebody else from the hostel and took us to the airport. That was it. I eventually flew back home. the whole experience really was, I know I keep repeating myself, but it was this spectacular adventure for me that included plenty of opportunities for growth. I was there by myself. I walked through the French Quarter alone. One day I walked to the venue by myself through the residential section of New Orleans. It was beautiful. I did touristy stuff. I did feel like I was safe. As I've mentioned, it is a city, but I just felt like New Orleans was alive. It was really wonderful. And so as much as I am here sort of suggesting or kind of going through my travel experience and throwing out all of this stuff for anyone else who may be thinking of going to New Orleans, I say for anybody out there who has the travel bug in them, definitely get out and explore. It was an opportunity for me to spread my wings. It was empowering. It was liberating. I mean, I have come home and am now trying to deal with the issue of maybe getting my flight refunded and my hotel stay refunded and dealing with all that junk. But that's just another opportunity to cope and deal with life's stuff. But the adventure where I very easily could have stayed home, didn't have anybody to go with. I did have an extra ticket. I ended up selling it, stood in line with the gentleman who bought it. It was great. We had a great conversation. Each went our separate ways when we got in. But it was wonderful. It was just wonderful to get out and travel. See a whole different way of life. Get to a place I had never been before. I don't know that I'd really ever been that far south and spent any time there. So get out and do the things. Get out and do the things. What I do want to do before I close out and give you your ear back to do whatever it is you're doing, as mentioned, as I always say, I really am grateful. I really appreciate y'all for listening. I've been missing this. I'm looking forward to my next episode, which will be also music inspired to a certain extent because I just finished 2 days this past weekend seeing Widespread Panic at the Live Oak Bank Pavilion in downtown Wilmington. But that's a topic for another day. I am going to pull out one of my favorite apps, which is Poddex. And as I've mentioned many times, you can actually get the hard copy cards if you'd like, but Poddex is an app that has all kinds of different topics you can choose from for conversation starters, questions. And this, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the travel inspired. And this one actually does say, what's the most unique food dish that I've had? And I am going to throw out there that cheesecake, quote cheesecake, it really was like a quiche, but at Giacomo's, if you happen to get there on Oak Street, I highly suggest it. Thanking Amy again for the suggestion. Have the alligator sausage and shrimp cheesecake. You will not regret it. If it's anywhere in your wheelhouse of food, you will definitely not regret it. What else have we got? What's your favorite travel gadget? As far as traveling goes, I'm just going to say straight up, I used my Google Maps. I did, even though it was a little bit slow in areas and I feel like was kind of confusing in some spots. I found that worked really well. Helped me navigate my way through the city. Helped me get to the venue. Helped me get to the streetcar. It did. Helped me get to Giacomo's and then back to, I really followed it. As long as you have a phone that's charged, I highly suggest using the Google Maps. And I used the step portion, of course, when I was walking. What's the most fascinating museum you have visited? I'm going to throw out there that the Voodoo Museum in the French Quarter was definitely pretty fascinating. Had a lot of things I had never seen before, gave me a lot of interesting ideas and quite a different perspective of what I thought voodoo was about. So check it out. What else have we got? Let's see here. What do I value most about traveling? I really value the opportunity to see life from a different perspective. Really. I hadn't been to a city in a while. I am grateful to be reminded of what it's like to live in the city and what comes with the city. Being able to walk everywhere was really wonderful. Walk out the front door and head out. I didn't have to get in my car. I didn't have to drive for miles. I just walked. Being able to see the lifestyle that some people are living. It was very sad at times. There were plenty of homeless people. I saw a lot of people sleeping on the street, and made me very grateful for what I do have. But yeah, and traveling just to be able to immerse myself in a different culture is pretty special. Different food, different lifestyle, different music. One can only grow. I know I only grow from those experiences. Let's see if there is anything else related to travel. I kind of think that might be it. I'll just throw this out there. This was one of the questions in here. Have you ever committed a crime or an illegal act while traveling? Didn't happen in New Orleans, but I was in an old life. I went to Mexico, went to Cancun with some friends, and I was definitely drunk and taking a leak in the parking lot, and the policia came up and wanted to take me to jail. Illegal to urinate in a public place, I guess. I found out that it was illegal, at least at that point, and they wanted to take me to jail. Instead, they just took all my money. I did not go to jail, which was, thank goodness, because I think that would have been pretty horrifying. What I'll close this out with is, what am I most grateful for? And I am going to connect it with, like, my recovery is such a, it's like the most important piece of my life. Without it, I really don't have anything. And I'm so grateful for it because it is what allowed me to go to New Orleans. New Orleans was not really ever on my list. I didn't think it would fit into the lifestyle that I live today. I've always heard, obviously we know Mardi Gras and it's about drinking, this, that, and the other thing. But without my recovery, I would not be able to go and have had the experience that I had. If I was drinking, personally, just for me, if I was there, I either would have, all kinds of horrible things could have taken place. I could be dead. I would have ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. It would have been a lot different than it was. I would not have been able to cope. So I just want to put that out there for me, not for anybody else. This is my podcast and it's really about me. Think about, what are you most grateful for? We all have different things. Gratitude is so important. I don't know what's going on. There's so much shit going on in the world right now. And I'm incredibly grateful to ground myself and really be where my feet are. As I sit here and reflect on this last couple weeks, it's been a wild ride. I took a trip to New Orleans. I spent 4 days in the Big Easy, the Crescent City. I got well out of my comfort zone. It continued as I've been back here in Carolina, went to 2 concerts, spent 2 nights, met some great people. And it's all been related to my making positive changes in my life, doing things that I don't want to do. And this has also all come after an incredibly dark period of my life. Like, I'm incredibly grateful that this is where I am, sitting in a place of acceptance. I was chatting with some friends tonight, and we were talking about acceptance, accepting life as it is, not as I want it to be. And there's that part of me that will always want what I want, when I want it, how I want it. But I'm aware that I would shortchange myself and I would get myself in trouble if I got what I wanted. And instead, here I am. My life is completely different than it was 6 months ago. Completely different than it was 6 years ago. But I did not expect to be here. And yet, had things not played out the way they have, I'm pretty sure I would not have gone to New Orleans and had this pretty life-changing experience that I've recently had. Maybe I'll move to Louisiana. I don't know. That's definitely not something I ever would have thought before. I'm grateful for a lot of things, but at this specific moment, I am incredibly grateful for my recovery and my willingness to remember why I'm doing what I'm doing and that I'm not missing out on something. I didn't once want to be sitting in a bar drinking. I will say that makes me think of Stinky sitting in the bar. Ugh. And that's for me. It's not for everybody else. And I don't mean to sound like I'm not judging. Everyone can do what they want. But for this, Angie, I'm grateful for this life that I am living. I truly am living my best life, a life beyond my wildest dreams. And on that note, I thank you again for listening, for joining me, and taking the time out to unpack my trip with me. So until we meet again, find out what you're grateful for. Plan that next trip to wherever it is you've always wanted to go. Even if it's 5 minutes away, 5 miles away. Do the thing. Get busy living. Ciao for now. Bye. So we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks so very much for listening. It's now time to reconnect to planet Earth and all that comes with living on the blue ball. I'd love to hear your ideas for future episode topics, along with any and all positive and or constructive feedback. Please feel free to contact me at ashysbadass@gmail.com. Thanks again for spending some time with me and allowing me to share myself with you. Until next time, please be gentle with yourselves, be kind to animals, and do all you can to allow your authentic selves to shine brightly.